Right, I need to tell you all about my new book, The 6-Minute Entrepreneur, okay? It's been a labour of love, this book, and I wrote it for you guys, okay? So I get asked all the time to go and speak at events, to come and speak to entrepreneurs. I have people asking me to mentor them. People want to know what's happened to me in my career that I can share with them so that they can learn from it, either so that they don't make the same mistakes that I made, or so that they can learn from the successes that I've had and they can go on to replicate that success. And I don't mind sharing. I want you to learn from my mistakes. I want you to learn from my successes, because I've found the more you put out into the universe, the more you share this around. Funny how the universe seems to deliver more back, right? So I spend a lot of my time going out and speaking to entrepreneurs, mentoring entrepreneurs and sharing my story. But I just can't reach hundreds of thousands of people easily in one go. So, labour of love, last year, I spent months and months putting together this book. So what I've done is, right, I've tried to make it really easily accessible. If you're anything like me, chances are you don't have endless amounts of time, right? We just don't have it. I'd love to tell you I had time to listen to loads of podcasts and enhance my learning. I just don't have time, right? So I thought, what was reasonable? 6 minutes a week is a reasonable ask of someone to give up of their time, right? If you can find 6 minutes a week to work on your own self-development, then I can commit in that 6 minutes that I can share with you a story from my life that is then going to have some takeaways that you can learn, take learnings from me and implement in your own entrepreneurial journey, okay? And whether that's from starting a business, scaling and growing a business, dealing with things, maybe you don't have a business and it's just, I deal with things like mum guilt and imposter syndrome, just general things that I have to deal with in my life. All of those I've broken down into manageable bite-sized chunks in nice, simple little stories. Now, the reason there are 52 stories is this is a year's worth of learning for you. So I'm really passionate about this. I want you to get the book. I want you to read one chapter a week. So you read through the chapter. That will have the story that happened to me, story from my life, okay? At the end of that chapter, I'll be really clear on what the takeaway is. So what happened in that story, but what is it that I wanted you to take away from that learning, right? And then to really reinforce this, I've given you a little bit of homework. I'm a big believer in you've got to work on your own self-development. Just listening to a podcast or a series or a little piece of advice isn't going to make the difference. It's once you put that into play in your own life and you role model that in your own business, that's when it's going to have the impact. So every one of these stories then has a piece of homework related to what you should have learned from reading that chapter. And I'm going to ask everybody one chapter a week. If you gallop through the whole book and read the whole book in a weekend, that's brilliant. You've taken all that on board. I can almost guarantee you none of it's going to have an impact in your business. Okay? Whereas working on one chapter at a time, maybe you want to read the whole book and then come back and work on a chapter at a time. You're more than welcome to do that. But I want you to really take the time that this book needs to really understand, take them down into bite-sized chunks. Now, I want to take you back to what really inspired me to write the book, where this came from. So I don't know if you know, but my autobiography came out a few years ago. And that is the story of my life. It's just the interesting story, not only for business people, but for anybody who's interested in my life, the story of my kind of life to date as it was. And within that, there are quite a few learnings and take-homes. And when I would get asked to go and do big talks and corporate talks and speak to other entrepreneurs, for example, people would ask me to build stories from my life. And what I realized is, at first, I used to try and gabble the whole, 20 years of my career into a 45-minute talk. It's too much for people. So instead, I started just thinking about the audience there and choosing 3 pivotal stories and moments from my life that would be specifically applicable to that audience and delivering just that story in a really meaningful way. Okay? So in planning out a framework that I would have for all of the different talks that I would go to, I realized that I had dozens and dozens of these stories that were applicable in different walks of life. And that's when I had that real light bulb moment of, okay, so someone could come and watch me at an event and hear me speak and learn 3 stories from my life. Or I can put them in a book and I can get them 52 stories from my life, which hopefully they learn a lot from a lot of those stories. So that's how the book kind of came to be. And it really has. I've said labour of love a few times here. It really has been a labour of love because I can talk for England. And what I've done is I've worked with the amazing Alex Hemmingsley, who's the ghostwriter who worked on my autobiography with me. I've given her the essence of the story, and then she's brought that down into 6 minutes of readable text and format for you. And then also, Jason Dawes been instrumental in pulling this together with me. He's been able to help me work on the exercises that people can work on to really take home the key learnings from each of those stories. So between the three of us, we had delivered not just a self-help book, but I promise you a business book which is easy to read. Hopefully you'll have some laughs along the way with me at some of the things that I've done in my career, but really take some big learnings home that you can learn from and take forward in your career. And I'm dying to know what you all think about it.